I have a theory which is also going to come out as a book called the U-turn theory. And in the U-turn theory, I trace all these people. In their early years, they were also very sincere. They were very sincere. They are not malicious people, by the way. These are not bad guys. I'm not saying they're bad guys. They went with real, genuine, in fact, rejection of the West and really immersed themselves into the East with honesty. And many of them spent many decades doing that. The book being different is to answer the very question, what do they run into which is so different that they have to recoil and come back? In other words, how much of India can they keep assimilating such that at what point do they reach a boundary where going further they would lose a sense of who they are as Westerners? This is something very interesting. T.S. Eliot, who was a great poet, very well-informed of Sanskrit, read a lot of the Upanishads, and a lot of his greatest poems were influenced by Hindu thought, Sanskrit literature. He, at one point, says that this is so profound, the Sanskrit works are so profound, that it makes Western philosophers look like schoolboys. He says that. And then a little bit later, he writes that in order for him to go even deep into it, he has to forget who he is in terms of being a Westerner, and he has to just jump into it, forget this preconditioning. And then he says, now I have to ponder whether I'm willing to let go and just go all the way into this tradition, or whether it's important for me to hang on to my sense of identity as a Westerner. And after contemplation, he's a very honest man. He writes a very honest note in his diary, which is published in one of our books. He says that I've decided in order for me to remain a Westerner, I have to draw the line how far I can go. So that's his U-turn moment. I call that the U-turn moment. Meaning he's reached the edge of how much he can digest, how much he can accept of the Indian stuff, because there is a fear of losing his sense of who I am. So the idea of being a Westerner and this lineage, bloodline of being a Westerner and this grand sense of history is an obstacle in going beyond a certain point. So they're trying to remain the Westerner in them, even those who admit that there's no more West and we're all global and we're all one, but deep inside there is something that they want to hang on to, and they want to have that side by side with the new knowledge they're getting from the East, and there's a tension between these two. So at that point, that's the edge which this book, Being Different,